I'm going to tell you why you should care very much. I'm going to contradict myself soon about your astrology, your human design, and your diagnosis. And I'm going to start with a personal example. So I am, this is too much information. I don't know. I am a Taurus sun, a Sagittarius rising, a Leo moon. I have a Leo north node. And my human design, I am a 5-2 generator. And there's a lot of other details and information there. And I don't have, well, I did have a diagnosis at one point when I was a teenager. I, my mom wondered if I was ADHD. And this is when it was kind of just coming on the scene as like the new thing. And I was seeing a therapist at the time and she tested me and she said, no. Um, I was more clinically depressed and I would just get overwhelmed easily. So that ties into where I'm going with this too. I've done I'm not an astrologer, but I have done a lot of information diving into astrology over the last 15 years, 17 years, 18 years. I've done layers of it. I haven't committed, time to it, but I'm like, oh, this is interesting. What is this? Human design, I know a little bit about. I've absolutely pulled up my chart, read it. I've recently read more about myself, which is where the story's going. And it's not something I want to dive into to learn myself, but I'm interested. And I had like a free PDF that was personalized to my numbers in human design recently. And I should have looked this up before starting this recording, but that's okay. So there's something in my chart that says my um like part of my path is emotional. And I don't mean the emotional authority, but I mean like I'm here to go through emotion and then teach emotion, which I do. I already was doing that. And another part of my chart, which is probably related, says, this is what I just read recently. It says, you are the most creative when you are like after a period of melancholy, which I've experienced. So this is where I'm going. I have spent my whole life like intrigued by myself. And I used to take personality tests all the time as a kid. Then when I found polarity therapy, that was like a big, like, I didn't need to keep diving in intellectually because I understood it energetically and universally, like not just myself, but like how people are comprised and how energy moves. And so part of how energy moves is it goes through neutral, and then there's inspiration. So then that creates a pulsation up and out. Creation, 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 creation. That creation reaches its limit, and then it comes down, comes into form. And then once the form is done, it rises up back into neutral. And so part of that cycle is after the outward pulsation, the yang energy, there's the yin, which is where the active doing stops. And you let whatever has been churned, been put into motion, like come into form. And so when I have reflected on my own energy, I'm like, okay, yeah, I have a big energy burst. And then I have like my yin time, and my yin time often includes laying on the couch. Like I'm not doing anything. And then there's usually something that comes from that. Like then I receive something and then I have energy again. But I'm not a person as an individual who's like push, push, push. That does not work for me. When I have tried it, I've talked about this on another recent video. when I've tried it, it like I have a stopping point. It just does not, that's not how I'm built. And so cool. I also get inundated sometimes with other people's noise, other people's ideas, other people's information. There are people who cycle through that much faster than I do. And so it looks like they're always in go mode, and that's very functional for them. And I've listened to some of those people recently, and I've questioned myself. I'm like, okay, am I like, why am I so not just tired, but like, why does my energy not want to do anything? I'm supposed to be blah, 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 blah. I'm supposed to be blah. I'm supposed to be like this. I'm supposed to be different from how I am. I'm supposed to blah, 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 blah. Even though I had come to terms many, many years ago with the fact that my energy doesn't necessarily always move like that. So then I read this human design thing about the melancholy last week. And I was like, right, that is true for me. That is true for me. And so it just reminded me of what I already know about myself and gave me permission again to be accepting of how I naturally move. And I'm pretty self-aware enough to recognize when I'm in resistance. That's different. That's a different feeling from just legitimately like, it's not the time to go. It's not the time to go. Like, it's the time to pause. And I was reflecting on this even further this morning, where I was like, I have actually always been a person who, like, I'm good at initiating, but I don't have to be the one who initiated. But like, once things are in motion, I've always been a person who sits back and like sees what's going to happen. I even do this in traffic. So if it's a congested space, but not like stopped, I will slow down and like let everybody kind of like, I know people are going to be switching lanes. I know people are going to be whatever. So instead of me getting in there and trying to make something happen, like let me see what's already unfolding and then I'm going to decide. So, why you should care about your astrology, your human design, and your diagnosis. Because when you read those things or hear those things or access those things, they will more than likely, the majority of it, not necessarily always 100%, will validate things you already know about yourself, but think should be different. Like that's a pretty, I don't know if that's a human characteristic or just the way society is. You know, society tells us to be like everybody else and none of us are actually the same. So it's insanity making. And when you get the validation that you are you and you get to act like you and what comes natural to you is what comes natural to you, it can be such a relief. And even like I said, for me, like I had already learned that. And then I'm listening to other people who are doing the things in the world that I want to be doing. So that's why I'm listening to them. But they're saying it needs to be like this. So then I'm questioning, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? No, I'm not wrong. I'm me. I'm a different person. Now, here is the flip side. The flip side is when you take your astrology or your human design or your diagnosis and you decide, this is me, period. I'm all for like, how are we naturally and how do we get that to work for us? But I know so many people who decide to use any of those things as a crutch for themselves. This is a silly and extreme example, and I don't actually personally know anybody like this, but I just have heard it bandied about like, I'm a Scorpio, so of course I'm going to sting you. I mean, there are lots of Scorpios who don't sting. Like that's a choice. It is a choice. You may have more of an inclination. You may have a lot of shit that festers for longer because you're a fixed sign, fixed water. So you have a buildup of shit that's churning in there, but you have choices. You have choices of how you use that energy. So don't let it govern you. That's the negative side. So there's like the experiencing like, oh yeah, this is what I'm like. Cool. Like let me work within that. Like let me get really functional around this. Versus this is just who I am and I can't help it. I actually see this a lot with ADD people also, ADHD and ADD, where I mean, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. It's constantly, it's in memes. It's like all over people's feeds that have that diagnosis. Well, my ADHD brain says da 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 da. Da. And I'm like, that's not really your ADHD. That's just you. Like, I relate to 30% of the things you're saying. Like, that's just you. It's not, everything isn't because you have ADHD. Um, Everything isn't because you're a Scorpio. Everything isn't because you're a manifesting generator. Everything isn't because you're a 6-1. Like it just like take it with a grain of salt. Let it hold up a mirror to you without letting it govern you. Don't let it govern you. It's not in charge of you. And this woman that I've been listening to recently, who I really am just appreciating, and she speaks about this so lightly. I love it because it's something I believe in so deeply. But like when I think about it, feels like hard. And I love that she talks about in just like these very simple terms. Like, if you want, these are my words, if you want a new life, recreate who you are. So once you accept the things that are about you right now, are those qualities things that are going to help you get to where you want to go? Are there ways to work within them that will help you to get where you want to go? Or are there things that you can decide are not true for you and or not true anymore? My favorite type of astrology that I've heard about, again, I'm not an expert, but I had a reading from a woman, and it is, I believe, esoteric astrology. And their belief is these are the energies that are ruling you at your birth chart, and these are the energies that are happening as time goes on. But as you spiritually evolve, they have less sway over you. You do not have to be ruled by them. Like when Mercury goes retrograde, I usually don't notice. I notice because everybody's talking about it, but I usually don't notice. I used to. I used to be deeply impacted by it, but that energy is not something that I get deeply affected by anymore. I have a lot of Virgo in my chart, and up until around my Saturn return, really, I was ruled by a lot of the negative aspects of Virgo, like just in my behavior and how, life and whatever. And that is some of the energy that I have unwound the most and am not ruled by in the same way. Like it was intense. I was so judgmental and I was so critical and I was, all the things that Virgos have a bad rap for. Um, but that's not my governing principle anymore. Not that those things can't show up in me, but they're not strong and intense like they used to be. And So you can choose from here who you want to be, how you want to be. And I'll give you that spectrum one more time. So there's you acting in default mode and being unaccepting of it. There's you recognizing that there are aspects to you that come very naturally and becoming accepting of that and learning how to work within it. And then there is you deciding that you actually can be however, whatever, whoever you want to create what you want. So if these things are working, keep them. If they're not, choose something else.